Hello, and welcome to the final week of the course. And syllabus indicates that the topic for this week is integrated marketing communications. And what I'm going to do is split integrated marketing communications into two videos, both roughly in the 20-minute range. So in this, the first video, which is obviously this one, we'll talk about integrated marketing communications, and then we'll look at one of the major components that makes up integrated marketing communications, namely advertising. And a couple of reasons for starting with advertising. First, it's probably the most prominent of the components of integrated marketing communication, and secondly, A is the first letter in the alphabet, and third, we've all had experiences with advertising, and there are ads that we like, and there are ads that we don't like. So we'll take a little more detailed look at advertising than just, gee, I like this ad or I don't like this ad. So anyway, let's start by talking a little bit about integrated marketing communications. And you say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And integrated marketing communications is the fourth P of the marketing mix, the final P of the marketing mix that we haven't yet discussed. So we talked about product, we talked about place, we've talked about pricing. All right, there's also the promotion component, and that's integrated marketing communications. And in IMC, which is the acronym for Integrated Marketing Communications, IMC, Integrated Marketing Communications, is it's a relatively new concept now. Relatively new meaning what? Last 15 or 20 years. And you say, well, marketing promotion has existed for way longer than 15 or 20 years. And you're absolutely right. And when I took my Principles of Marketing course, back in spring of 1977, I learned about marketing promotion. I learned about marketing communications, but what I did not learn about was integrated marketing communication, IMC. And you say, well, what's the difference? All you've done is put integrated before marketing communications. And in reality, it's much more than that. And the real differentiator of integrated marketing communications is the idea that what integrated marketing communications refers to, is integrating and coordinating various marketing communication components to deliver a clear, consistent, and compelling message about an organization and its products. So three things going on there. What we call the three C's: clear, consistent, compelling. So again, integrated marketing communication refers to integrating and coordinating various marketing communication components to deliver a clear, consistent, and compelling message about an organization and its products. And the components of integrated marketing communication include advertising, direct marketing, online marketing, personal selling, public relations, and sales promotion. We don't have enough time to talk about all six of those components. We know we're going to talk about advertising in this video, and we'll just have to see what the mysteries of the next video bring us in terms of which other components of the integrated marketing communication mix that we talk about. So you said, but what's so revolutionary about integrated marketing communication? I mean, the idea that you integrate and coordinate. Well, that's part of it right there. When I learned my marketing communications, when I learned my marketing promotion, I learned about advertising, and I learned about personal selling, and I learned about public relations. I learned about sales promotion. Didn't learn about direct marketing. Didn't learn about online marketing. Direct marketing existed. It wasn't considered a separate component. Online marketing, this was 1977, so enough said there, right? So I learned about advertising, and I learned about personal selling, and I learned about public relations, and I learned about sales promotion. But I didn't learn about any coordination and any integration of them. And so what integrated marketing communication again focuses on is integrating and coordinating those various components, right? The advertising, etc., to deliver a clear, consistent, and compelling message about an organization and its products. And so if you think about what that's saying is part of what you're trying to do is you're trying to do the clear, consistent, compelling. Right? So that kind of forces the integration and the coordination, because you don't necessarily want your advertising to be doing one thing and your online stuff doing something else, and your sales force is doing something else. No, there needs to be a consistency, and the communication should be clear, and oh yeah, by the way, it should be compelling. So again, the components should work together, but that's a lot easier said than done, in part because these various components, and we still see a little bit of it today, but in the past, particularly when I learned the four components that I learned, they were like arch enemies, bitter rivals. And so the advertising people were always trying to undermine the personal selling people, and the personal selling people were, going after the public relations people, and the public relations people were, trying to hold off the sales promotion people, and the advertising people, and the personal selling people. So they had these adversarial relationships, and it's really hard. From an organizational perspective, it's really hard. I mean, think about organizations that you might have been involved with. I mean, hell, sometimes it happens in families, right? It's like your mom's side of the family and maybe your dad's side of the families don't really like each other, and then, oh my God, there's this thing called marriage that kind of like forces them to get along, but they don't really get along, kind of stuff. Same kind of stuff happens in business. Right, so one of the challenges to this integration and coordination is the whole idea that these components historically had adversarial relationships. A second challenge in integrating and coordinating the components is that they don't all work in the same time perspective. And so, for example, something like sales promotion, and you say, well, what is sales promotion? And I'll just give you an example. Sales promotions would be things like coupons and product samples and contests and things of that nature, right? Sales promotion has a very short-term focus, right? It's trying to get people, and it's trying to get people to buy now. On the other hand, personal selling, and particularly with the way that personal selling is done these days, is about building relationships with customers, right? And so, if you think about it takes a long time to build a relationship. So one of the challenges that you have with the various components of the integrated marketing communication mix is that they don't all work in the same time perspective, and that has challenges in terms of integrating and coordinating in terms of having clear, consistent, and compelling messages. All right, so that's a real quick and dirty overview of integrated marketing communications. And so what we'll spend the rest of this discussion talking about is advertising, which refers to any form of non-personal presentation and promotion paid for by an identifiable sponsor. So again, advertising refers to any form of non-personal presentation and promotion paid for by an identifiable sponsor. And there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about with respect to advertising, and we'll look at two topics associated with advertising. The first thing we'll look at is creating the advertising message, and the second thing we'll spend a little bit of time on is advertising media in terms of trends and segmentation opportunities. All right, so let's dive into creating an advertising message. And one of the challenges was with creating advertising messages, and this is another reason why integrated marketing communications has become more prominent, is the advances in technology now mean that customers are bombarded regularly, continuously, with marketing communication stimuli. And one of the challenges with creating advertising messages is, how do we as a marketer cut through the clutter? Right? The clutter being how, with all the messages, with all the communication, with all the stimuli that we as consumers and people are exposed to, how can our ad kind of get onto somebody's radar screen, right? Personal radar screen. And the book talks about something called the AIDA model, AIDA. Attention, interest, desire, and action. And so this cutting through the clutter is important, because given that the first step in the AIDA model, again, AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action, the first component there is attention. And so that if you don't get a customer's or consumer's attention, you might not be able to build the interest, you might not be able to create the desire, and there may be no action. So, how can you cut through the clutter with respect from an advertising perspective? And so one aspect involves what's known as the message execution. This refers to how can advertisers put messages together to cut through the clutter. Right? And so there's a lot of different tactics that organizations use in terms of message execution. We'll just talk about a few. Right? One is testimonials. Right? That's often seen with weight loss or health-related products. Right? So if you think about Nutrisystem product, you'll see somebody and you say, wait a minute, the Nutrisystem stuff, that's for older, but absolutely. Nutrisystem tends to be for older people, let's define older as 40 and above. Basically because, I don't want to be the bearer of bad tidings, but as your body ages, your metabolism changes, and you'll eat food, and when you're in your 20s and real active, that you burn off all those calories, not an issue. It doesn't work that way once you get past 40, right? So one of the things that you see with the message execution from a testimonial perspective is you'll see people talking about their experiences with Nutrisystem or Weight Watchers or whatever, and these are people who the audience, the target market, can identify with. So you're not going to see, let's do this. This is really absurd, but I'll use it anyway. You're not going to see like Taylor Swift. Right, she's not going to make a real credible. I mean, she's like 21 years old. I'm like 61. Okay, I'm looking and going. People my age, they look and go, "Who the hell is that?" Right. So testimonials. Right. Second type of message execution, second tactic involves music. Right? And so do you write music especially for the ad? Remember, Burger King used to have a jingle back in the day, and you can Google this just for the fun of it. But hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders, don't upset us. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders, don't upset us. Right? Wonderful. You'll see music associated with a number of different products, and it's a way. Again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to cut through the clutter. So let's now move to, that's not the smoothest transition I've ever had, but the clock on the wall tells me that I'm almost at 15 minutes. Let's look briefly, what passes for briefly in my world, at advertising media. And we're not going to be able to get anywhere near thorough discussion of all the advertising media. But let's look at select advertising media in terms of the trends associated with that media, as well as segmentation opportunities. And so one that we'll look at is magazines, and magazines face a real challenging environment. And you go, well, who reads magazines anymore? And that's exactly the point. Okay, one of the challenges with the print media, both newspapers and magazines, is that there's alternative ways of not only of delivering those media, but there's also alternative ways of viewing those media. And so, one of the things, and I'm recording this in late July of 2015, there was an article earlier this week in the Wall Street Journal that talked about how Time Incorporated, and you might have heard of Time Magazine and Sports Illustrated and People Magazine. Time is really struggling. Time Incorporated, the parent company, is really struggling because it was slow to the market to realize, or slow to the dance to realize, how impactful the technological and media consumption habits have changed in recent years. And so it continues to create a challenge. Now, one of the reasons I like to talk about magazines is that magazines tend to offer tremendous segmentation opportunities. I mean, if you think about, what's your particular major? I know we've got some accountancy majors in here. I know we've got some human resource management majors in here. I think we've got, political scientists major. There's all sorts of magazines out there. I tend to be a logistics guy, and pardon me. So here's a wonderful publication. It's called the Journal of Commerce. You can see that it's a magazine. You say, oh boy, and on the back you see, ooh, there's an ad. Yes, there's an advertisement, right? And it's for something that's logistics related. So those of you who are, let's say, accountancy majors or human resource management majors, I mean, there are magazines that are, deal specifically with accountancy or human resource management, and what you're going to see is content as well as advertising that's targeted towards those specific interests. We'll also talk about radio, because radio's another media that is got some issues from a trend perspective. Now, I'm old enough, okay. And yeah, he said 61. Well, I'm not 61 yet. I'll be 61 in a couple of weeks, mid-August. I remember when FM radio was a real innovation. Okay, FM radio, yeah. And the thing with FM radio is, it allowed for, greater segmentation opportunities. And one of the reasons I want to bring that up is that one of the things that's going on, and one of the big trends, right, is the movement away from what they call terrestrial radio, AM, FM, to either satellite or computer-based, internet-based radio. And that's huge because, the terrestrial radio, the AM radio stations, the FM radio stations, you would hear ads, right? You would hear advertisements on the radio. A number of the satellite radio stations and many of the internet radio stations, they don't have advertisements. And so if you're a marketer and you're looking, and one of the things about radio is that, and if you look at anything like, I think of Sirius, right, as a satellite radio. I mean, you just look at all the different genres that are offered on Sirius radio, right? Sirius, S-I-R, that one, S-I-R-I-U-S, Sirius XM kind of stuff. I mean, I just think of I'm more of a kind of like a rock and roll person, but they got the 70s, they got rock from the 70s, rock from the 80s, rock from the 90s, and they got classic rock, hidden classic rock or classic rock gems, and then there's the alt, there's like alt nation, and there's there's all sorts, there's hip hop, there's rap, there's like tons and tons of, so there's really good segmentation opportunities. But if there aren't any ads, how effective is the stuff? And so, and then another thing is that historically a lot of radio listening went on in cars. And, so it was a big deal because, I can remember having an automobile that didn't have a radio. Honest to God, right? And then I had an automobile that had an AM radio, but it was a tuner thing. It didn't have any push buttons, so you literally had to, turn the knob to get the radio station. So you start to think about how, the evolution in technology and the ability to kind of skip around and do things like that. That's had profound impact on advertising effectiveness on radio as well. And the last one that I'll talk about, because I'm over 20 minutes, and that's the challenge with this thing. I probably should do 3 discussions, but it is the last week of the semester, so we got to take a break. Is television. And television's an interesting because it's not immune. Television is not immune from a lot of the technological and media trends that are out there, right? Because what you have is this whole like Netflix explosion where you've got people viewing stuff on either smartphones or laptops or tablets kind of stuff. And you've got the whole, hey, I can TiVo stuff. I can switch channels much easier. I mean, I still, I tell students on a regular basis, back when I was your age, how the hell did you, how the hell did you skip an advertisement on TV? You had to get your rear end out of the chair you were sitting in and actually go to the TV and turn the knob to get to another station. Much, 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 much simpler now, right? You say, yeah, never really thought about that. Well, there you go. Now, one of the big things with television, and it's very, very attractive from a marketing perspective, and this is also one of the things that's still, kind of is a plus of magazines as well, is that television appeals to 2 senses, right? You think about radio, you've only got audio, right? You think about newspapers, you've only got visual. But with magazines, you've got visual, and increasingly, particularly for magazines where you might be wanting to introduce either a perfume or a cologne, you can have those scratch and sniff things, so you can appeal to both the visual as well as the sense of smell. And television allows for both sight and sound. So that's a tremendous advantage if you're a marketer, right? You can appeal to multiple senses. So if you've got a media that can appeal to multiple senses, that's really positive. So yeah, I'll tell you, clock on the wall, 22 and a half minutes. So we need to stop there, and we'll see you for the next lecture. Bye.